Excellent. Good evening, all. See a few further people coming in. We were just talking before starting how it seems to be, the most part, the weather is nicer for this webinar than our previous physical activity webinar. Might be some pockets of rain, but largely what I'm saying to you is we don't think we'll keep you for an hour, depending on how many questions and answers you've got. So hopefully, if the weather's nice where you are, we'll ensure you get out there as quickly as possible. But welcome to this evening. On that line of thought, then we're going to get straight into it. Welcome to this webinar, which is a focused webinar on MSK Medicine, and particularly a focus around our diplomate members and opportunities within the faculty, the future direction of the faculty, and where we kind of see the diplomate members sitting within that. I'll do a quick round of introductions before going to the agenda full. So if I can hand over to Anna-Louise to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Anna-Louise. I'm a consultant in sport and exercise medicine at Hampshire Hospitals. I do 50% NHS MSK clinics, alongside the other 50% being in mostly equestrian sport.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna-Louise. And I can see that Giles has joined. So Giles, I'll hand over to you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name's Giles Hazan. I'm a GP working with an extended role in MSK. I work in chronic pain, particularly in the southeast of England, in predominantly Eastbourne.
Wonderful. And then before I introduce myself and the agenda for this evening, if I hand over to Natasha.
Hi, I'm Natasha Jones. I'm President of the Faculty of Sport and Exercise Medicine and consultant in Sport and Exercise Medicine in Oxford.
Wonderful. And that leaves just myself. I'm Andrew Cuff. I'm a consultant physiotherapist, work for an organisation called Connect Health. I do my clinics in North Kirklees, and I'm also the director of the clinical strategy for the organisation. Within the faculty, I'm the current diplomate committee chair. So I get the pleasure and the privilege of representing all diplomate members within faculty council. To orientate you this evening, then, I'll soon be handing over to Natasha to give an overview of the faculty and in particular our future direction, before I'll then take us through a little bit around the faculty role within musculoskeletal medicine more broadly, particularly some of the opportunities and some of the how the future direction is finally poised in terms of influence and where things are going to be going, and then focus that in on particularly the diplomate members, largely around MSK, but also with a hat tip to our team care and exercise medicine. Giles and Anna-Louise will then give an update and introduction to our GP with extended role in MSK pilot and framework, before we move on to questions towards the end. We've had a number of questions sent through already, so thank you for that, and we'll answer those 5 first. But there'll also be opportunity for people to come off camera, to come off mute, put a question into the chat, and any questions that might be stimulated through tonight's talk as well, we will then take and answer. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Natasha.
Thanks. So yes, as I said earlier, I'm president of the faculty, and I just wanted to give a sort of a brief preamble really about what the faculty actually does, because I'm aware that a lot of our members don't know that. And then, as Andrew said, what our future direction is to becoming a multidisciplinary college, and hopefully through that being able to influence our 3 key agenda more than we can at the moment. Next slide, please. So our vision as a faculty is to improve the health of the nation through physical activity, and obviously that's a hugely broad vision. And we work on that vision through our 3 key agenda, through physical activity medicine or exercise medicine, through musculoskeletal medicine, knowing that it's very difficult to be physically active unless you're musculoskeletally healthy. And then obviously through sport, which is an inspiration to so many people, but also supporting our athletes to achieve the best they can. And our membership broadly works across all 3 of those agendas, some in only one of them and some in all 3. Our faculty has been around now for 20 years, following a long preamble where there are multiple iterations of our organisation until it became a faculty when we were successful in getting the 2012 Olympic bid, and it was created as part of legacy funding, and the specialty of sport and exercise medicine was created at that time, along with the specialty training scheme, which has been running ever since. So our mission is to develop a strong, unified voice in sport, exercise and musculoskeletal medicine. And I think this is really important because I think all three agenda currently have no strong multidisciplinary voice to support them. And I think that's one of the reasons why musculoskeletal medicine is, I think, underrepresented in the NHS, considering its massive importance in the health of our nation. Why the exercise medicine agenda, again, considering its massive preventative benefit, is underrepresented, and in sport as well. So I think having a multidisciplinary college with a multidisciplinary influence who all speak with one voice and one vision is likely to be much more successful than multiple groups all talking in slightly different language about broadly the same direction, which is what we've had in the past. So that sort of comes onto our values, really, about uniting our multidisciplinary membership through this vision. And alongside that, we wanted to support our multidisciplinary members as best we can to achieve what they want to do within our three key agenda. And alongside that, obviously, we want to grow, because the bigger our faculty and ultimate college will be, the more influence we clearly can have. Next slide, please. So what does the faculty and the college actually do? So the first point is really important, and it's something which I spend a lot of my time doing along with the rest of the council and office bearers. We spend a lot of time advocating at a ministerial level in government through, this is a slightly old slide actually, so it's not HEE anymore, it's NHS England or a branch of it, and through multiple other professional organisations. We sit on the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, and through them we have a lot of opportunity to influence both NHS England and ministers and CMO. So we spend a lot of time talking about our three key agenda as much as we can in every opportunity that we have. And that's been really important, that membership, over the last 5 years. We importantly standard set. Our faculty, and soon to be our college, considers standard setting a key part of our role, and we do that through examination, through appraisal and revalidation, and then importantly through setting standards through our professional code of conduct, which has recently been rewritten. And we expect people, when they become members at any level, to reach the standards that we set, but then to uphold those standards through both their own practice and through the practice of others. And that's particularly important in unregulated areas, such as sport, or less regulated areas, I should say, such as sport, but also through physical activity medicine, which is, really in its infancy, in my view, in the NHS. From a professional accreditation point of view, we don't do this directly, but we work with the GMC to support the CCT and CSER process. We obviously run, with the support of the Royal College of Physicians of London, we run the National Training Scheme for Sport and Exercise Medicine as well. And you'll hear more about the GP with an extended role accreditation process, which we're currently working on in musculoskeletal medicine initially, but that will then be extended to both physical activity medicine and sports medicine. We have a role in education, although BASM has more of a role historically in that. But our role in education, particularly around physical activity, has been really pivotal in the last sort of 5 to 10 years in terms of our influence and our success. Our role in education in the musculoskeletal space is improving, and you'll see on our website that we are developing, or Giles is leading and others developing a lot of educational resources in the musculoskeletal space as well. And then we try and support our members, because we realise our members need something back other than influence through our faculty. So we run leadership courses. We ran a very successful Emerging Leaders course last year in collaboration with the Royal College of Physicians and with BASM, and that was a multidisciplinary course. And the multidisciplinary membership of that course was really important to its success. We offer informal mentoring and more structured mentoring, particularly for our new consultants, and that's really their only opportunity for mentoring nationally. We run a complaints process. As I said earlier, we have a professional code which we have recently revised, and that follows GMC requirements, but importantly, really highlights the differences between working in the NHS and working in environments like sport, where you're often working in isolation. And then we are in these sort of early stages of creating clinical fellowships in the NHS to try and improve our sort of research base. Next slide, please. So the new college that we're working towards at the moment, and I hope will form at the beginning of 2025, is a college that we're forming in collaboration with our sister organisation, the British Association of Sport and Exercise Medicine, who are a much older organisation than us, but who work on the same agenda and broadly share the same vision. Some of our memberships overlap and some of them don't. We have been through a long consultation process with BASM and agreed, and our members have voted on the new college, and with that mandate we will go ahead to form this college in the next few months. We're working on that really hard at the moment. The most critical thing about this new college is it will be multidisciplinary, as I said earlier, and we have designed with BASM a vertical structure of membership which essentially follows our 3 key agenda that you'll see in the vertical columns there: exercise medicine, MSK Medicine and team care. To be a diplomate member, obviously you have to have passed one of the 3 diploma that we now run. To be a member, you need to have passed either the old membership exam or through all 3 of the diploma. And to be a fellow, you will need to have completed training in sport and exercise medicine and passed what will be the specialty exam. What we want through our 3 key agenda is strong representatives at all levels, so at fellowship, membership and diplomate level, to ensure that our 3 key agenda are represented properly by the multidisciplinary team. I consider that the most critical part of success, and in terms of national influence, having those multidisciplinary voices all talking on the same hymn sheet makes a massive difference to our ability to influence. Alongside our memberships that you'll see there, we do have other memberships which are expanding. We have a vibrant associate membership, we have trainee membership, obviously, we have undergraduate membership, and we help them in multiple ways. And we also have a category for exercise professionals, which I think is in its infancy at the moment, but I hope will develop as the diploma develop. But our membership over the last 5 years has really exponentially grown, and that is as a result of our diplomate membership, where our fellowship and full membership have developed more slowly. Our diplomate membership has really increased massively, which I think is indicative of the need that people feel for a professional body to support them, but also the belief that people have in our ability to influence across our key agenda if we are multidisciplinary. And I think that's the end of my slide, so I'm going to hand it over to you now, Andrew.
Yes, thanks, Natasha. And I think I'm going to build on and hopefully add some nuance to the kind of the really critical concepts that you've outlined so clearly there. So really thank you. And one of the things I've just jotted down whilst you were talking is there's a real strong MDT theme through what the faculty is currently doing and what it intends to do in the future. And we think about the panel for this webinar this evening. We have two SEM consultants, we have a GP with extended role, and myself as a physiotherapist. The MDT approach isn't just something that's talked about, it's something that's truly embedded within the workings of the organisation and the kind of the day-to-day running, which is really great to see. And particularly, I'm mindful of the number of AHPs on the call, that concept of we sometimes talk about MDT, but there's a very difference between it being part of an MDT. And I think what the faculty has really recognised and is driving forward is that when we think about sport, MDT is just what you do. The organisation is built around an MDT. When we think about some of our faculty members that work within the military, the concept of a multidisciplinary, multi-role team, just bread and butter. And similarly in the NHS, we all work within multidisciplinary teams. But then when we step out of our kind of working day-to-day and we join special interest groups or variety of different organisations, they're often professional specific. I'm mindful, I also sit on the exec for the Musculoskeletal Association of Chartered Physios. We have an MSK interest, but it's only for physiotherapy membership. It's that concept of finding a home with other professionals that replicates the area industry that we work in is so crucial and so important, and something that the new College of MSK is really tapping into. And when you're talking about influence, I think the other thing to kind of call out there is getting the seat to the right table. So you mentioned there kind of directly into the CMO of NHS England that advises the government. That's the table we need to be at in order to ensure that musculoskeletal health gets the focus and the priority it deserves, given the impact on things such as quality of life, economic inactivity, so on and so forth. And Anna-Louise and myself represent the faculty within the MSK Partnership Group, which is a series of all the professional bodies and interested parties within all four nations that advise NHS England on musculoskeletal matters. So really kind of hitting home the fact of the College of MSK is something that is finely poised, is very much going to be the go-to organisation in the future that will continue to influence MSK physical activity and all those things that I'm sure everyone on this webinar this evening is passionate about. And to be a diplomate member gives you a real opportunity to be part of that organisation, part of that journey, and by proxy, the ability to influence and shape that direction of travel. Can I have next slide, please, James? Excellent. So what am I going to talk about? Well, hopefully a little bit more focused now onto the diplomas. And you'll note my title there says MSK Diplomate Chair. That will soon be an outdated title within the faculty structure, as Natasha alludes to. So I'll briefly talk about all three diplomas and then focus in on the benefits of becoming a diplomate member. So hopefully building on some of the specifics beyond just influence and being part of the organisation, but what's that tangible kind of reward that you'll practically get back as being a member. We've talked a bit about how diplomate members are already incorporated within, and hopefully I'll just give a bit more kind of flavour to that. And then I'll be opening up for a little bit of kind of feedback and insight from those of you that have joined the webinar this evening. So the invite or the ability to register for this webinar was an open invite. However, there was also some targeted invitations. Invitations to those people that had expressed an interest in sitting the MSK diploma, but then didn't go on to sit the exam. Some that sat the exam, but then didn't take up membership. And also some of you that have sat the exam, passed the exam, and are now diplomate members of the faculty. So hopefully we get that in and around view of what it was that interested you, what are your future aspirations, and how could the faculty support you in delivering those aspirations. Before I then hand over to Anna-Louise and Giles to speak about the GP with extended role pilot and framework. So we've gone to the next slide, please, James. Excellent. So our diplomate membership options or our diploma options are aligned to those three vertical structures that Natasha has alluded to: musculoskeletal medicine, team care, and exercise medicine. Now, the diploma in MSK Medicine was the first established. Anna was previously the diploma lead. Giles was the diplomate lead within the committee, and then kind of fallen to myself. That exam sets our kind of working knowledge of musculoskeletal practice across the breadth of particularly community MSK care. We then have the diploma in exercise medicine, which is more kind of physical activity and exercise medicine focused, and the diploma in team care for those working in sport and the required skills to work as part of a team and providing sport-based intervention. Now, as Natasha alluded to, what's really exciting is that these diplomas are live. Any AHP, GP can sit these diplomas, 1, 2, or all three. And if you sit all three and pass all three, then not only will you be a diplomate member within the faculty, you have the opportunity to become a member within the faculty, which is a really exciting development. If we go on to the next slide, please, James. Now, this is a video which I think will probably make it a bit more succinct on a Wednesday evening than I will in terms of wittering on. So, James, if you want to press play, this gives you a little bit of introduction to why you should be a diplomate member.
As a diplomate member, a really multidisciplinary group. So we have AHPs, we have GPs with extended role, we have aspirational GPs with extended role, as well as orthopaedic surgeons within the diplomate committee and within the diplomate membership. What we're trying to do as a committee is make it really attractive to be a member of the faculty. So I've talked about the podcast, I've talked about accreditation and ongoing CPD. The real benefits for me, I think, are leaning into some of that multidisciplinary expertise. So not just within the diplomate membership, but we start thinking about team care, exercise care, the members and the fellows, and a real opportunity to get involved with where musculoskeletal is going, particularly as a profession, but also as a kind of specialism around physical activity, whether that be in sport, whether that be in the military, or whether that be in the NHS. So a really exciting time to join, purely because there's lots going on. We've got lots of ideas that we want to take forward and make it a really attractive place to come, grow, thrive, network, and help people to continue to professionally develop and get the most out of their rewarding career within MSK.
Thanks, James. And clearly there I was talking through an MSK lens. In terms of the structures moving forward and the committee structures moving forward, as Natasha's diagram demonstrated, so at the moment we have a diplomate committee, which is a committee made up of GP with extended role, with AHPs, even orthopaedic registrars that have sat the MSK diploma exam.
It's really exciting.
Essentially, we are the group that kind of come together and think about primarily what benefits, how can we drive and make the faculty an attractive place to come to be an MSK diplomate member. And we've come up with a number of things. Now, that will now change in the sense of we will have a musculoskeletal medicine committee, which will be made up of diplomate members, fellows, and the ability, therefore, to network and harness an even greater diversity of thought around not only driving things forward for MSK-interested diplomate members, but MSK members more broadly, and how we can really tap into the potential that sits within. Specifically then as a diplomate member, what are the benefits that exist? Now, there's three big ones there on the screen. So naturally, when passing the MSK diploma exam and becoming a member of the faculty, you're able to use the post-nominals DFSCM UK. We had some discussion around what should the post-nominals be if you pass team care or exercise medicine as they were coming on. And I think we landed on keeping DFSCM UK as the post-nominal for all, particularly then that would be changing to MFSCM if somebody completed all three successfully of the diplomas on offer. As a member, you'll get a monthly newsletter. That's for the faculty-wide newsletter. And it keeps abreast of opportunities such as the Emerging Leading Programme and the cohorts and applications that Natasha alluded to, as well as the access to our full network of SCM professionals, both in the UK, Ireland, and further afield. In addition to the faculty newsletter, a specific diplomate member newsletter goes out periodically talking about things that we might be doing in the Diplomate Committee currently. Obviously, in time, as we move through this organisational change, I'm sure additional MSK Medicine specific newsletters, team care specific newsletters will come out more broadly as well. And of course, the option to receive the much heralded FSCM diary, which are in high demand at all times. But specifically as a kind of a Diplomate Committee, in terms of some of our current achievements, the Faculty of Sports Medicine podcast that some of you may listen to, subscribe to, and if you don't, you should listen, subscribe, and also share with colleagues, that currently sits under the leadership of Claire Spear and Ralph Mitchell, who are Diplomate members. Ralph is a GP with extended role, Claire is an AHP, a physiotherapist by background, and I've got a steady tempo once monthly of leading experts coming and being interviewed around all things sports, exercise medicine, clinical topics, research topics, leadership, growing a team, and increasing the numbers that are listening are going up. That's been driven through the Diplomate Committee. We have the exam process. So the current MSK diploma exam, the exam leads sit within the committee structure and oversee the refreshing of the examination bank. So for the particularly AHPs on the call, the ability to be involved in the education leadership pillars of practice, that mean that every year 50, 60 new exam questions are written so that we keep refreshing the exam content for new cohorts. We have the Grand Round currently in development. So those of you familiar with hospital-based discussions in years gone by, whereby almost I think like a lunch and learn, you come together, you have an interesting case, and a number of different people, different specialties, different seniority in the room can give an opinion on how they would manage or what they would be considering. Our plan is to replicate that in collaboration with BASM, in collaboration with Out of the Blocks, which is the new SEM consultants, and hopefully in time with the MACP as well, which essentially we want to be tapping into that diversity of thought, the MDT of this interesting case, not necessarily thinking about zebras, but common cases that we will see within day-to-day clinical practice and how different people, different specialties, different seniority might approach their clinical reasoning for the benefits of all. So that's currently being worked up and should be live soon. The next thing on our roadmap was to think about how can we extend our mentoring opportunities to Diplomate members. So growing on the kind of well-established mentoring that occurs in the faculty more broadly. And our initial thinking in this is that this might be diplomate to diplomate. It might be an established GP with extended role with an aspirational GP with extended role. It might be a diplomate with a consultant and all the kind of other variations that could occur. So some real kind of tactical, practical benefits that come from being a member you can tap into beyond the influence and be able to be part of a direction and journey of more national MSK work. And I think I now will hand over to you guys regarding what's interested you in the faculty, what interested you, particularly in the MSK diploma. Maybe those of you that have passed the exam but haven't yet become a member, still kind of on the fence about whether or not it's something you want to take up. And essentially then how we might be able to support you further. So if you want to put your hand up and speak, you're more than welcome to do so. If you want to put some bits and pieces into the chat, then please do. But I will stop whittering on whilst you have some time to think or to type. And whilst you're doing that, I should let you know that I'm very comfortable with awkward silences. I can't see how to put a hand up. Well, if Warburton L, I'm going to assume you're Louise, unless there's another Warburton L interested in MSK Medicine. But if you want to just come off mute, you're more than welcome.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, got you, Louise. Hi.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm not a diplomat or a member, but I'm here representing primary care rheumatology, and I just wanted to offer our support as a society to your new ventures, particularly the MSK College. So please shout on us, shout if you want any input from us.
Brilliant. Thanks, Louise. And I think one of our questions that came through was around collaboration and very much aligned to our values of uniting and growing for all. I can see a message in the chat there from Akash. I'm a new diplomate member of the faculty. The aim is to the other diplomate exams and also the membership exam. I do not live in the UK, but however would like to play roles in the faculty, new college where I'd be able to fit. Have thought been given to members like myself who do not reside in the UK, but are willing to fulfill roles within the faculty. And what ways do you see members like myself being able to support this moving forward? Natasha, I don't know if you want to take first stab at that one.
Yeah, certainly. Well, welcome. It's really good to have you, and I'm really pleased to hear that you're hoping to sit all 3 exams and become a full member. The 3 exams, as you've heard, will give you full membership, so there's no need to take the membership exam. And in fact, the membership exam as it exists is on its last sitting now, because it will transition to becoming a specialty exam and will develop aligned with the curriculum for consultants in sport and exercise medicine, physician consultants in sport and exercise medicine. There will be opportunities for overseas candidates to sit that exam, and indeed we're just beginning talks with other countries who perhaps don't have a specialty exam for their own country, who might want to use ours in order to build their own framework for specialty recognition in their own country. If you do sit the fellowship or the specialty exam and pass it, and you're an overseas member, you will become an overseas fellow, just on the basis of that. But that doesn't give you a license to practice in this country without GMC recognition. So it's a little bit complicated at the fellowship level. The membership level is slightly less complicated and absolutely is open to all, and we are actively promoting our exams overseas. And in terms of have thought being given to members like myself who don't reside in the UK but would like to fulfill roles, I would say absolutely welcome. Please join whichever committee you want to and which you think you can influence. And we would be delighted to hear your perspectives and to develop with them. So yes, really excited to hear about members like yourself who want to intervene, who want to get involved.
Brilliant, thank you, Natasha, and particularly picking on that theme of diversity of thought, that ability to stretch us to think outside of an NHS, military, sport, UK-based setting, really welcomed. You can see there's another message. Thank you, thanks for this meeting. Is there an opportunity to connect with SEM consultants to mentor for CSER routes of accreditation? Probably, Natasha, another question for you.
Yeah, that's a really good one, and our CSER accreditation is something which a number of our fellows actually support. It's a big time-consuming process which all medical specialties do for the GMC essentially. For anybody who's ever done a CSER application, you'll know that it is hugely onerous and sometimes quite complicated. And I've seen applications myself, and they are files, you know, sometimes almost a foot deep of various things that people present as part of the application. And we all know, and I think even the GMC know, how cumbersome and difficult that process is. In terms of mentoring for that, we can definitely offer our CSER accreditors to have sort of informal chats about, you know, what sort of things count, what sort of things don't count, how to build a portfolio which is buildable, but yet also digestible. So informally, yes. Formally, we don't run a formal mentorship program for CSER, but we do a lot of informal chats amongst consultants who've either been through it themselves or who assess CSER applications.
That concept of just being part of a network and be able to kind of tap that person on the shoulder informally, for sure. Dee, you can, but equally, if you just want to come off mute, we can come to you next. If you're speaking, Dee, you're still on mute. Maybe some technical difficulties. One final question then before I move on the concept of time, and particularly the first bullet point. there's lots of opportunities out there at the moment, whether that be through master's programs, whether that be CPD courses, left, right, and centre. What was it that interested you in the musculoskeletal diploma offered by the Faculty of Sports Exercise Medicine? What was it that made you think, yes, I might want to sit that or professional interest on that? Kirsten, I can see your hand is up. Is that coming in on to answer that question or for something different?
Yes, I was just thinking about it as people were talking and thinking about what interested me in doing this. And so, as you then said, right, that one specifically, I thought, yes, I've been thinking about that. And I think as a MSK physio, you can work for years and years in MSK physio. You can do a master's, but there's no kind of recognised, standardised kind of route to saying I have this particular expertise in musculoskeletal matters. And so for me, it was just something that's kind of like an official acknowledgement of you've reached this kind of level of knowledge in the musculoskeletal area, because I don't think really in physio we have that. There's so much variety in all the different masters that you can do, but there isn't that overarching standardized kind of thing. I know that the MACP kind of membership probably is the closest thing, but the appeal was that kind of almost official standardized kind of route, which I thought was really valuable.
That's brilliant. I can definitely kind of share in those reflections, the ability to almost be externally validated in terms of this is an exam to sit that kind of recognises your expertise for sure. I'm mindful there's lots of coming through in the chat. I'm also mindful of time. So what I'll do now is I'm going to hand over to Giles and Anna-Louise, and then when we get towards the Q&A, we'll come back to the chat and ensure that we get through as many as we can before our 8 o'clock backstop of time. So Giles, am I handing over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy with that. Can you hear me okay?
Got you.
Wow. I think that was very well timed. Seamless comment from Dee there about where you are with getting some diplomas, being an aspirational GP, wanting to get a formal standard in clinical practice to validate that. And Dee, you absolutely speak to the very heart of why we've embarked on this project, which has been something that people like me, people like Louise Warburton, who we heard from earlier on, and many other GPs working in musculoskeletal medicine in various different guises around the country have recognised a need for. So there's a range of organisations that have provided fantastic education. There's been a range of knowledge tests, but what has lacked has been a formal pathway for standardized accreditation as a GP with an extended role, which was identified by the Royal College of GPs as something that was needed to distinguish between working as a GP with an interest in an area, so what used to be called GP with a specialist interest, and then GPs like me. So I've worked in various different clinics, but predominantly within spinal health and chronic pain clinics for the last 10 years. And what we need is recognition that we are working in a role that goes beyond the role of a GP. So obviously musculoskeletal medicine forms a significant part of GP work. However, working in an extended role is going above and beyond your standard scope of practice. So we've spent the last few years putting together a framework which outlines the core competencies required. We've put together a curriculum which forms the basis of the diploma exam. And the diploma exam, of course, stands as an applied knowledge test, which has met the needs of lots of people, as we've just heard. But that alone doesn't prove you are competent to practice as a GP in an extended role. So the framework and the pilot we're embarking on at the moment is to essentially put together evidence that you are competent to practice in an extended role, which requires working closely with senior clinical colleagues that can provide senior supervision and assessment of your ability to put that knowledge into practice, as well as amassing a portfolio of evidence. And this is very much built on the foundation that was put together by the dermatology group, so currently run by the British Association of Dermatologists, took over managing the GP with extended role in dermatology, which is the most well-established pathway to work as a GP in extended role, which was initially piloted with the Royal College, but now run by the British Association of Dermatologists. So we are very excited to have now got to the point where we're piloting this with a small number, just literally signing off on a very small number of existing GPs working in extended roles, just to pressure test it a little bit, with the intention that we can roll this out on a larger scale for people perhaps more like you, Dee, who are at the start of that process, that you could work towards that and build an evidence portfolio with support from the faculty over the next couple of years or so. So really exciting. And as Andrew said, this very much draws on the multidisciplinary nature of the faculty. So this has had input from the faculty, from BASM, from other colleagues like Louise and others at the PCRMM. And we've got a core group of SEM consultants, including Anna-Louise, who comes with a wealth of experience of running things like CSER and the examinations for the faculty, to bring that to bear on this project as well. So really exciting, and more to get from this. There's, it's a learning process as we go, but hopefully what it will provide is a clear pathway to practice for those of you who want to work as in an extended role, or who already do but wish to demonstrate competency in your practice. So that's probably as succinct a summary as I can do. And I'm not sure if Anna-Louise, you want to chime in on anything that I've missed there.
Sorry, I'll just unmute myself. No, I think that pretty much covers it, actually. Yeah, we are starting on this small pilot, and we've had a variety of applications which we will be having a look at as a panel, and then deciding on what looks like the best route forward. Obviously, the diplomat exam is very important to that process. So passing the diplomat exam, really crucial, as probably the first step into this, really.
That's great. Thanks, Anna-Louise. And thank you, Giles. And such a succinct summary doesn't do the justice of how many years and how much hard work has gone into this behind the scenes to get it where it's at. So also just take the opportunity to acknowledge that and to thank you both for leading this and driving it forward. James, I think that takes us to questions. Yes, excellent. So I'm mindful there are still some in the chat that are unanswered, but we'll take the 5 on the screen now that came in prior to the webinar to ensure that they are answered. And then we'll come into the chat, starting with Callum's question and working our way down. So the first question there, which I think is for Giles. I would love to know more about the accreditation proposed at MSK Medicine diploma holders, and also the newly proposed route of licensure in SEM via diploma examinations. I think we may even talked around that and to a certain extent this evening, unless Natasha, Giles, and Louise, you want to kind of add anything further, or if I've missed the tenet of the question.
No, I think like you say, certainly the second half of that, I think Natasha's piece answered the new structure of the diploma examinations. So hopefully that would answer that. Really, perhaps the only other thing I would add is a bit of a timeline on this, in that the Probably what I would say is first of all, go to the faculty website, where you will find under the diplomate section, and if you search for GPWER in the website, it will take you to the pathway documents. So the GPWER framework will give you a lot of the background information you might need. But as Anna-Louise said, that, you know, one of the core elements is getting the diploma exam, being a diplomate member, and then accumulating evidence of competency in practice. A lot of this is very familiar, particularly if you come through a GP route to CCT. This is currently for medical doctors. It should be said, GPs with extended role. This is not a pathway open to allied health professionals, but we will be looking to roll this out beyond the pilot, probably looking on into next year at the earliest. So keep your eyes open would be the only other thing I'd add to that.
Brilliant, thanks, Giles. The second question, probably one for me: ways physios can train in point of care ultrasound. There are lots of ways, some good, some not so good. So you can go and do a weekend course, you can do a day's course introduction, and if you've got access to a scanner, then you can probably fill your boots. That's probably on the poor side of the spectrum. Kind of gold standard for point of care ultrasound training for physios is to do something that's case accredited. And for any physiotherapists on the webinar or members, there's a very clear, very comprehensive governance document from the Charter Society of Physios that outlines all routes to accreditation and capability for point of care ultrasound. So do check out that resource. The next two, I'm going to come to Giles to take as a oneer. The third one, I think to some extent you've talked more broadly around, is just whether or not there is faculty support to do this across 4 nations, or is it an England specific pilot? And then the fourth one, the role of private insurers, and do they recognise GPs with extended role in MSK?
Yeah, so the third one's a really valid point, because it comes to the core of this, which has always been the hardest element of establishing yourself as a GP working in extended role, is getting access to supervised practice. So it's always been a matter of, you know, certainly when I started out, you're literally knocking on doors, going into clinics, sitting in, and then seeing if you can persuade them to take you on as a staff grade or similar. So do we have any existing relationships? We've had some useful informal discussions with large MSK providers about how this model might sit alongside professional development for their organizations. However, I would be lying if I said that means that we can guarantee there's going to be training places for aspiring GPs with extended role. However, this is of mutual benefit, because by going down an accreditation pathway, what we are doing is making it easier for organizations to employ you, because you have an externally validated source of recognizing competency. So in many ways, this should be a means to make it easier for you to get access to clinical practice roles. However, it does, of course, still require people to reach out to clinicians. Perhaps coming back to what Andrew said as well, is another element of becoming a member is networking, is finding out who works in your area, who might you link to, informally start to have discussions, see if you can get some mentorship. So, you know, there is more to be done there in developing that network. However, both sort of formally through what the pathway offers you, and informally through the networking that comes through the faculty membership, diplomate membership, then I would hope we can support you wherever you are. And then question number 4 was about private insurers. It's an interesting one, because when I've worked privately as well as I work solely in the NHS now, but I have worked privately, and that would really vary depending on the private, the various insurers. So different insurers have got different grades of recognition. So some insurers would recognize me as a GP with a specialist interest, other insurers wouldn't. That seems to have been changing. Certainly it's a number of years since I last worked privately. And at that point, there was a clear need for recognizing that you're on a specialist register. So I think there are certainly no immediate discussions we've had with the insurers for them recognizing this as a means to practice privately. So we haven't yet established that, but that may well be part of the conversations to be had in the future.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Giles. And the fifth question, Natasha, you've touched on some of this already this evening, but Natasha, can I come to you for that one?
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely. The answer to that is yes. We already, often with the support of our of other colleges, input in international events, and we collaborate actively on the exercise medicine agenda with a number of other people, including Exercise Medicine in the US and Australia and New Zealand as well. So we have a history of being open to international collaboration. We're actively thinking about how we're going to market our specialty exam, particularly overseas, but also our diploma overseas. I have no experience personally with Singapore, but it seems to me to be an ideal place to collaborate. And I think we've already had a volunteer to go over, haven't we, Giles?
Absolutely. Always happy to in person deliver any kind of training needed abroad. And
just put it on record, I think it's a two-person job. So
quite right. Quite right.
Excellent. So for the final 10 minutes of this webinar then, I said I'd give you some time back, but I've not checked this very well, so apologies. But I'll start with Callum in the chat, which again, I think is a question from Natasha, but I'll just read it out for the benefit of all. Currently a GP ST3 looking to apply for SEM training next year. I've passed part 1 and 2 in the last year. Would I then need to sit the new specialty exam on top of this?
Callum, well, firstly, well done. Part 1 and 2 are not easy to pass, particularly if you're not in SEM training. So extremely well done for having achieved that. The specialty exam, as I said earlier, isn't the same as the membership exam, and the questions are transitioning currently to be aligned with the new curriculum for SEM consultants, which is much more about the governance, leadership, teaching, as well as advanced clinical skills. Whereas the old membership exam was very much marketed to GP colleagues, as well as sort of multi-specialty doctors. We haven't yet decided at what point people who have current membership will be able to use that to support their CCT. I imagine over the next few months we will decide that. My feeling is probably that transition will happen quite quickly in order to make sure the specialty exam reflects the level of knowledge that we expect of consultants. But I can't tell you when that date will be. But I think I would say to all SEM registrars, I would encourage them to also take the specialty exam, because I think they'll find it's a very different exam to the one they might have already experienced.
Brilliant, thanks, Natasha. And again, I think I'm staying with you for the next question, which is who in the faculty is best to contact regarding research opportunities?
That's a really good question. We have, I suppose it depends on what area you're interested in, whether it's MSK or exercise medicine or sports medicine, and then we can put you in touch with the committee mostly involved in that. As I said, those 3 committees will have aligned research collaborations and aligned research streams. So I think the thing to do is to contact the faculty office, and then they'll put you in contact with the best person or best committee chair.
Brilliant, thanks, Natasha. Next question is from Alex, which I'll take first punt at. And I probably think I should be clear. I'm not here representing the MACP this evening. The point I was making earlier was that I also have a dual hat, in the sense of sitting with the MACP leadership, and was instead holding a mirror up to the benefits of being a faculty member, not the MACP as kind of first I think that's the intro of the question seemed to suggest, so just to make that really clear from a conflict of interest point of view. But the question itself goes on to talking about relationships for current Association of Chartered Physios in Sports and Exercise Medicine, particularly through their bronze, silver and gold accreditation, and what collaborations that might exist, both at an organisational level, but also for members. And my punt at the question would be at a strategic level in terms of collaborations between the ACPSEM and the faculty is probably through yourself, Natasha, around any kind of strategic collaborations. But in terms of members that have an interest in exercise medicine that want to join the faculty, I would have thought the initial tactical or practical approach would be to sit the either team care or exercise medicine diploma in order to become diploma members and then become members of the faculty. But Natasha, any builds from you on that response?
Yeah, I would echo that. We're really trying to encourage. We've got a huge network of practitioners, multidisciplinary practitioners interested in exercise medicine, and that's grown through the Moving Medicine Initiative and through the Active Hospital Project, and more recently through our work on the Physical Activity Clinical Champions Programme. We do have a large network, and we're currently setting up communities of practice for sort of local and national communities of practice for people who want to be involved through any of those initiatives. So you can get involved in the physical activity agenda without without being a member, and without being having passed any of the exams. So please get involved. From my point of view, exercise medicine is my real passion, and the more people who want to get involved and contribute, the better.
Excellent. I don't think I missed any questions in the chat. So speak now, forever hold your peace. Otherwise, I will give 3 minutes back and close the webinar and just say thank you to you all for attending and giving a Wednesday evening to do so. Encourage you to, if you've not yet sat a diploma exam, to really think about doing so, and then when successfully passing the exam, taking up the opportunity to become initially a diploma member within the faculty, but setting your heights on membership. And equally, a thank you to Natasha, Anna-Louise and Giles for your input this evening. And probably the biggest thank you to you all is to James, who behind the scenes has pulled together all the logistics, organisation, marketing comms behind this, for whom without him, none of this would be possible. So a big thank you to James as well. And I'll close the webinar there. So have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.